Nothing says home for the holidays like a late December NFC East matchup at Lincoln Financial Field. The Eagles stood on this field just 5 days ago and walked away with a huge win against the Washington football team. Clawing their way to a 7-7 record, COVID continuing to impact this team. 3 games remaining and a playoff spot up for grabs. The Birds are looking to take one from the New York Giants this afternoon. Welcome into the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. I'm Gabriella DiGiovanni here with Fran Duffy. Fran, feels like we were just here.
It does feel like we were just here, but look, this is going to be a tough sledding game for this Eagles football team on such a short turnaround, but a huge opportunity in front of them this afternoon.
Let's dig right in. We're going to head over to the link where the Eagles are warming up, presented by our friends at PA Lottery. All right, here we go. Big week, like you said, okay? Things kind of got very chaotic for the Eagles very quickly as at the start of last Friday. Then, of course, they got a big win against the Washington football team on Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, head coach Nick Sirianni testing positive for COVID. He cleared COVID protocols yesterday, and he will be on the sidelines today coaching this football team. So there was a lot up in the air, but the messaging was we're going to stick to business, and that's exactly what they did. Jalen Hurts getting warmed up here. This is a big day for him, a bounce back, if you will, because the last time he played the Giants just a few weeks ago, it was a career-low day for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you look at the way that he has fought through adversity here, just even going back to last Tuesday night against Washington, 2 turnovers on the first 2 drives, watching him bounce back and having a very admirable performance on that weird week, I think that kind of speaks to what the Eagles fans and what the Eagles organization has right now in Jalen Hurts. And I think you look at his ability to fight through that adversity. I'm excited to see what he does here in this game after what he did against the Giants just a few weeks ago.
Can't forget, he's one of 3 quarterbacks in NFL history to rush for over 700 yards and 10 touchdowns. He leads all quarterbacks with 10 rushing touchdowns, of course, surpassing Michael Vick last week. He's also leads all NFL players in explosive plays, 96 on the year. So we talk about this rush attack as we see Jordan Howard being a huge contributor to that. But his development in the pocket and the passing game has been very impressive the past few weeks.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is the run game and the play action off of it, because what that does is it creates some more well-defined throws for the quarterback, and he doesn't have to put it all on his shoulders, on his right shoulder in particular, on every single drop back, and that allows him to be more efficient with his throws and more efficient with his decision making. You're kind of limiting that sample size for things to go wrong when you're able to try and create some well-defined throws for the quarterback. And this isn't a Jalen Hurts thing. This is a football thing. You go back and watch Aaron Rodgers last year and the way that he executes that offense. You look at Patrick Mahomes and what he's asked to do in that offense. I think what the Eagles have done here with the run game, with play action, with the screen game and RPOs, it's really helped Jalen Hurts and this entire pass game, obviously the rushing attack, all come along very well in the last couple of months.
Looking at Miles Sanders right now, who has 2 straight games of over 100 yards on the ground. Last week, of course, being a career high 131. He has allowed Jalen Hurts to really focus on his arm, because we spoke about this in the post-game show just on Tuesday night about Jalen Hurts wasn't the leading rusher for this Eagles offense on Tuesday, which most of the season he was. So between the attack of Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, as Nick Sirianni has said, the spark Jordan Howard has provided is very obvious because when he is handed the ball, he sticks his foot in the ground and runs downhill.
And that's the thing, is you have those complementary styles between both Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard. And both guys have that ability to go between the tackles, but Miles, with the explosiveness that he has and that ability to create the big play. We saw that on Tuesday night against Washington. He can get to the edge, get to the perimeter, and make plays up at the 2nd and 3rd level. He's one of the better breakaway backs in football when you can get him up into space. And I thought that's something that the Eagles did really well this past game against the Washington football team. We'll see if they can continue that here today against the New York Giants, because it's something they had some success with back a few weeks ago, Ella. You know, we talk about Jalen Hurts and then the 3 interceptions, the turnovers against that team. The Eagles were able to move the football. It was not a terrible offensive day when you go back and watch the film of that game. And so if you cut down on those mistakes, those crucial errors, which are not all on Jalen Hurts, by the way, on those 3 interceptions, those are team plays as much as anything. I think when you look at just that ability to erase those big mistakes, I think that'll go a long way towards an Eagles victory today.
And then don't forget, you throw Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell in the mix, and they can get you yards either way. Of course, Boston Scott, too, don't forget, he had a pretty deflating fumble against the New York Jets. So if he does see some action today, you know he's coming out swinging. He wants to get that play back.
The giant killer, right?
Yes.
That's what we joked about the last time these two teams played. But they were down. Miles Sanders was hobbled most of that game. We saw a lot of Boston Scott, a good amount of Kenny Gainwell in that performance against the Giants. Now the Eagles definitely operating with more of a full deck offensively. They get Landon Dickerson back to the lineup today after he came off the COVID-19 list. And so this Eagles offense, Nick Sirianni on the sideline, he was activated off the COVID list yesterday. So I think when you look at this offense, they are like I said, they are operating with a full deck this afternoon.
Dallas Goedert, there he is, the big tight end. 2 weeks in a row, he's also over 100 receiving yards. We talk about this passing game. He's a huge reason why it's been so successful, and that's because of his consistency. You know what you're going to get from Dallas Goedert. He is going to play until that whistle blows. Now, a big point that we talked about on Tuesday night in the postgame show, of course, was that fluky interception in the beginning of that Washington game. But what was important that they did with Dallas Goedert is they went back to him, okay? That could be a blow to the confidence for sure for any receiver in the National Football League, especially when you still have Jalen Hurts who's developing his passing game. But they returned to Dallas Goedert time in and time out, and he put up 135 receiving yards against Washington on Tuesday.
Yeah, we just saw some of the other young tight ends in that room, right? We see the rookie there in Jack Stoll. We saw Tyree Jackson, and that is such a good example for the young players, not just in that room, but across the entire offense. And that, hey, some things go wrong early on in a game. That doesn't mean we go in the tank, right? That doesn't mean that the rest of the game is over. You flush it and you move on, right? Well, how often have we heard that from the offense, the young players here on this offense? And I think when you look at Dallas Goedert, Ella, the big thing that always stands out to me, and it's something that was kind of crystallized for me this week as I was doing a piece on Dallas Goedert. You look around at some of the metrics that you would say are valuable for tight ends. Contested catch rate, yards after catch, run blocking. You go to Pro Football Focus, you look at all of those different metrics. Dallas Goedert is in the top 5, top 6 in all of those metrics. He's the only tight end that you'll see in the entire NFL that ranks that highly across the board. So you would make an argument that he's the most complete tight end in the NFL this year. Nobody is able to impact the game as well as he does across the board.
And look, this Giants team, although they just faced the Eagles a few weeks ago, they do look a little different. Of course, Daniel Jones, their quarterback, making his way onto IR. But one thing that stayed the same is safety Xavier McKinney, okay? And he picked off Jalen Hurts a few weeks ago, and you know he's going to want another one. He has 5 interceptions on the year, so he's going to be a huge threat to these Eagles receivers today. It's
a good safety tandem between he and Logan Ryan back there, and they use those safeties in a lot of different ways. They're very interchangeable. Both guys can come down and play closer to the line of scrimmage. And so they'll use them in a variety of ways. And what that means for Jalen Hurts and for Jason Kelce as well is that you have to make sure that you're setting protections well. Both guys will be used as blitzers in this defensive scheme. But then for Jalen, having an understanding that what you see pre-snap is not what you're going to see post-snap more often than not. So having an understanding, hey, this is what I'm seeing now, but if I turn my back to this defense for 1 second, or if I drop my eyes somewhere, I have to make sure I know where those safeties went. Those guys, Xavier McKinney, Logan Ryan, very, very big factors here in this game for the Giants defense.
And then, of course, a linebacking duo that the Eagles offense needs to look out for is Lorenzo Carter and Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith, an interesting one, because he was just newly signed to the Giants last week, and then he played 17 snaps and had 4 tackles against his former team, the Dallas Cowboys. Joe Judge saying that he had about 4 to 6 hours of coaching to get him ready and a walkthrough with the defense, and he liked the way he responded. Look, Jalen Smith has been in the league, and of course he's played the Eagles when he was with the Cowboys. So this is not new to him. Definitely a threat for the Eagles offense here today.
Yeah, I think when you look at the way that those guys use their linebackers, Tay Crowder has been that 3-down player for them, number 48. He's going to be out there on all 3 downs whenever he's healthy. I think when you look at how they use the rest of those off-ball guys, it's going to be a matter of what package they're in. Benardrick McKinney is a player that played against the Eagles often a couple of weeks ago. He was out there for a lot of those run-focused downs, which obviously they'll see plenty here today against the Eagles. So I would expect to see plenty of McKinney. Jalen Smith, here's the book on him is that obviously, look, he's got that ability to make plays sideline to sideline, but any sense of misdirection, any sense of pre-snap motion, he can take the cheese and run one way when you're sending the ball the other way. We'll see if the Eagles try and take advantage of that here in this matchup.
There's your starting left tackle, Jordan Mailata. He kind of wants a bounce-back game as well. Wasn't too happy with his performance on Tuesday night. And again, the offensive line shuffling around. Landon Dickerson activated off of the COVID list. He will be back at left guard. And then there he is, center Jason Kelce, as we take a look at the offensive starters here today. Kelce named to the Pro Bowl earlier in the week. 5-time Pro Bowler, 119 straight starts today, longest active streak by an NFL center. Need I say more?
I mean, this is a team, we talked about this rushing attack and how efficient they've been and how explosive they've been both on the ground and through the air. One offensive lineman named to the Pro Bowl, and it's just Jason Kelly. Just bewilders me. But I think when you look at Jordan Mailata, and what does it say about him? The fact that he's not happy with how he performed last Tuesday night. The offense ran for 200 yards. Jalen Hurts was barely touched in the game. I think that's a credit to Jordan Mailata and his willingness to improve. He came on Eagles game plan this week for some film breakdowns and just talked about what he's learned from Lane Johnson and from Jason Kelce and from Landon Dickerson as well, who he called wise beyond his years. Said that's the peanut butter and jelly combo on the left side of that Eagles offensive line. I loved seeing that. And obviously, PB&J back at it today as Dickerson returned to the lineup, as I mentioned earlier.
There they are, the fridge and the freezer, if you will. Jordan Mailata was asked about not being named to the Pro Bowl. And, you know, he said, I don't really think about it. He said, I have a lot of work to do, which is funny to hear him say because of the season he has had. He solely gave all the credit to Lane Johnson. He said, I model myself off of Lane Johnson. But I thought the quote of the week was, not everybody knows my name, but they will one day.
That's paired perfectly with that look.
That was perfect timing. Thank you, Jordan. But I just thought that quote was very interesting because he said it in a very humble way, and he completely understands. Look, Nick Sirianni preaches, look in the mirror, accountability, responsibility, and Jordan Mailata lives that way week in and week out, and we're seeing that even in his responses off the field. He says, look, I have work to do.
You are what you put on tape. And I think what Jordan Mailata has put on tape over the course of this season, what this entire offensive line has put on tape over the course of this season, they're one of the most dominant forces in the NFL. You would argue one of the highest performing individual position groups in the entire league. And that speaks to the way that they have operated in the run game, in the pass game. It's just been so much fun to watch them go to work. And I think they got a lot of national attention this past week because, you know, being one of the only games on TV on Tuesday night and just seeing what they were able to do against a pretty good Washington front that had all of their cards back in the deck against the Eagles last Tuesday night. I think when you watch that offensive line work, rushing for over 200 yards, it was a sight to be seen for sure.
And don't forget to vote for Jason Kelce for the Walter Payton Man
yes,
of the Year.
Absolutely.
Thought that was a good plug. Before we head over to the defensive side of the ball, there they are, the big boys up front. Fletcher Cox, we have to talk about him. Last week was his 10th multi-sack game. Obviously, we talk about him each week, but the duo of him and Javon Hargrave is why this defense has been so exceptional this year. And
it's not just, I think we've talked a lot about how, hey, offenses have to decide, are they going to slide towards Hargrave or are they going to slide towards Cox? In this game in particular, I thought that we saw some really good usage from those two players to help and find potential matchups along the offensive line. Hey, let's find who's the weakest offensive lineman on the other team. Let's get them isolated on Cox. Or let's get them isolated on Hargrave. On a couple of those plays, we saw the Eagles line up with a lot of guys up on the line of scrimmage and drop a bunch of players out, but you still get that one-on-one. And Fletcher Cox was matched up against the rookie right tackle who had just come off injury, Sam Cosmi. So you have Fletcher Cox lined up at defensive end. You get that matchup that you want. It results in a third down pressure, an incompletion. Eagles get off the field. That's not even a sack, but that shows the way that they're using Fletcher Cox and the way he's able to make plays.
And look, the good play of the guys like Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave has only allowed younger guys to really develop under them. Teron Jackson getting some attention this week, and he answered some questions with the media, and he said, part of the reason I'm trending upwards is because I'm absorbing from the vets. He said, I can't even put it into words. They've been huge for me. And now Teron Jackson has recorded 17 or more reps in each of the last 4 games. So the opportunity to learn behind defensive linemen like Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, and of course Brandon Graham still has a huge presence in this building, is only creating such a formidable defensive line for years to come here in Philadelphia.
And that's the thing, and I've talked a lot about the culture that's in that room when you have the established guys like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham in that room, but you throw in a Javon Hargrave, and I remember when I first arrived here with the Eagles, and this was back in 2011, I feel like a lot of the discourse around the dynamic of vets versus rookies is, we're not going to help those guys out. They got drafted to come take our jobs. It's not really that way. I think when you look at the way that most position rooms are, most locker rooms are, a lot of the vets are willing to help out the rookies because at one point they were in their shoes and they understand that it's a business and all these, the team is better when everybody's better, right? And so Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Hargrave, those guys have all been in their shoes. They understand, well, hey, when I got into the league, I had Cullen Jenkins, or in Hargrave's case, I had Stephen Tuitt and Cam Hayward. Those guys helped me along. Well, now they're just paying that forward and helping guys like Teron Jackson, helping guys like Milton Williams. Number 93 has been ridiculous the last few weeks. So I'm excited to continue to watch these young linemen develop.
There's big play Slay. He doesn't even need an introduction, right?
No.
As we start looking at the defensive starters today, Slay also being named to the Pro Bowl. He's made 4 of the last 5. Pretty impressive and not too surprising. But some defensive stats I want to share with you, Fran. I think talk about the progress we've seen from this defense. That they caught a lot of criticism earlier on in the season, but the way that they've developed, especially Jonathan Gannon at the helm, I think is pretty impressive. Weeks 1 through 7, they allowed 26.4 points per game, which ranked 24th in the NFL. Since week 8, they've allowed 17.6 points per game, which is now 6th in the NFL. And then, of course, in weeks 1 through 7, they allowed 133 rushing yards per game, which was a huge criticism that they received early on. Since week 8, allowed just 79 rushing yards per game. So if that doesn't say development and progress, I don't know what does.
It's hard to install a defense like this one in 1 year because of the amount of zone coverage that you play. When you look around the NFL, obviously there are a lot of teams that major in zone coverage, but it's especially when you factor in the way that they play zone without getting too deep into the weeds, it takes time to be able to get those guys caught up and get them up to speed. And so what we've seen over the course of the year, you mentioned those first few weeks where the team was very you had that identity of here are the coverages they're going to play. They're going to play a little bit soft, a little bit more conservative from a coverage standpoint, and they're going to let things come to them. Well, over the course of the year, we've seen that evolve, and every single week they seem to be playing another year or another layer off that onion, right? And so we're seeing this defense, whether it's from a rush standpoint, from a coverage standpoint, they're disguising things and they're changing things on a week-to-week basis. It's not all just, oh, we're going to blitz, blitz, blitz. You're seeing plenty of plays where they're going to just drop back and cover, but the way that they're doing it is different. The way they're using these guys, both up front and on the back end, changes, and now you're keeping opposing offenses guessing. The multiplicity of this unit has been one of its bigger strengths.
This defense also has a huge opportunity on their hands today as Jake Fromm looks like he will be getting the start for the New York Giants, making his first NFL start today at Lincoln Financial Field. He was on the practice squad in Buffalo until the Giants signed him on December 1st. So Jake Fromm, welcome to the NFL. Yeah,
and this will be a little bit different than what the Eagles faced last Tuesday night with Garrett Gilbert. Garrett Gilbert has been in the NFL for 7 years. Jake Fromm has been in the NFL for 2. And so you're not getting that same wealth of experience from Jake Fromm. So I think when you look at the way the Eagles attack Jake Fromm in this one, we'll see. And I mentioned that multiplicity. Maybe they decide they're going to turn up the heat and see how he responds to different blitz packages. They might also say, hey, we're just going to rely on our 4-man rush. We're going to try and disguise our coverages and try and see if he can throw us a couple interceptions from that standpoint as well. My guess, early on, they're going to throw a mixed bag at Jake Fromm and just see what works. And if one thing starts working a little bit better, then they'll lean heavier into that as the game goes on, as long as things are rolling the right direction. But Jake Fromm, he's an undersized pocket passer. He was known more for his accuracy and his touch and decision-making in college as opposed to his physical tools. He's not a great athlete. He's not a big power arm type of quarterback, but I think he's been a guy that he was a 4-year starter at Georgia. This staff with the New York Giants, plenty of Georgia ties, plenty of SEC ties, so not a surprise that they went with Fromm off waivers, picking him up off the practice squad, but then also installing him into the starting lineup in place of Mike Glennon here today.
We're looking at some of these linebackers, Alex Singleton, and we just took a look at TJ Edwards. They're going to be handling running back Saquon Barkley today. In his 5 games against the Eagles, he has 608 yards from scrimmage and 4 touchdowns. But in 2021, he has fewer than 70 rushing yards in all 10 games he played. He's battled a lot of injury in his young career. But Saquon Barkley is still Saquon Barkley, and it's still an NFC East opponent on a Sunday in mid-December. So you can't count him out, but can they limit him? Can they contain him? It's going to be a big task for the linebackers, but I know they're up for it.
I mean, what did we see last Tuesday night against Washington? We saw 15 carries for Antonio Gibson, 26 yards. And I think when you go back to Week 12 against the Giants, the way that the Eagles were able to shut down Saquon Barkley, if you remove that one big run, I think it was like a 34, 35-yard carry, if you took that one out, the stat line looked very, very similar. It was about 12 carries for, I believe it was 22 yards. And so when you're talking about that kind of effectiveness against Saquon Barkley, the Eagles need to just make sure they are locking all the windows and doors, shutting everything down. Don't let him escape, because he's got that ability to bust one outside and still break off a big run. And so it's going to be all about consistency here today. Just everybody do their job in the run fit, and you can keep Saquon Barkley and Devontae Booker contained in this rushing attack.
I was going to mention Devontae Booker because he's averaged nearly 130 yards on the ground the past 2 weeks. So he's just as much of a threat, if not more of a threat, just due to his very recent production for this Eagles defense. And they will be without, of course, Nate Solder on the offensive line due to COVID. So they can't take too many hits on their offensive line. And so losing Nate Solder is a pretty big blow to the offense today.
That's a good point. Matt Parrott is going to get the start at right tackle. He is a second-year player, was a third-round pick out of UConn a year ago. So you'll have a couple of second-year tackles. We'll see if the Eagles can take advantage of some of these matchups against the Giants' offensive line. My guess is they'll try and find that weak link, like I mentioned, and try and isolate Fletcher Cox, Hargrave, the rest of that group on those players.
Starting to break things down on the field before they head into the locker room. But I think a big point we talked about in the post-game show on Tuesday night was, of course, this progress and this development of these young players. Fran, you said this coaching staff has done such a good job in letting these young guys ride it out. And it's clearly now paying dividends. But the biggest development and progress that I can't wait to see today, of course, is Jalen Hurts, because he did have a down game the last time he played the Giants. His response is what you want to see from a quarterback you're trying to build around. So how he keeps it going today is what Eagles fans should be looking out for.
And I think it could be a fun theme, Ella, in this entire game on both sides, because who's a player that's actually coming off the COVID list for the New York Giants today? Kadarius Toney, the team's first-round pick, who, whenever he's been on the field, he's been productive, but for a host of reasons, he has not been on the field all that often. He has fought through a couple different injuries. COVID has been an issue for him a couple times here this year. It's been a very cloudy situation. Whenever he's out there, he's been productive, but we'll see if they allow him to fight through that adversity. They lost Sterling Shepard last week due to injury, so there will be opportunity there for the New York Giants. I think when you're looking overall at the way that the Eagles have handled these young players fighting through adversity, they let them play through it. They stick by them. They show they're trustworthy, and I think that we'll see if the Giants do the same here with Toney in this game.
As the Eagles wrap up warm-ups and head inside, we're actually going to touch base with Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, who's over at Lincoln Financial Field. Dave, the Eagles have clawed and fought their way to 7-7. They're in the thick of that playoff picture. What's the mentality going to need to be around this Eagles team to not take this depleted Giants team lightly today, given the short week and that 4-10 record?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ella, and it really is kind of the dominating theme, if you will, because it has been an unusual week for the Eagles. Playing on Tuesday night, Nick Sirianni goes into the COVID protocol, the holiday, the idea that, hey, this is a playoff game. How does a young team respond to that? And I really think that the reaction that the Eagles had after that loss on November 28th will stick with them. So I don't think, look, a mature team and we've been around here long enough to know, a mature team understands what this game means. The Eagles have no margin for error. They have to approach every single game as if it is a have-to-win game. Mathematically, of course, it is not a must-win game. So I just can't imagine taking the Giants lightly. Now, the part that is still in my brain is that the Giants have won 3 straight games in this series. So, it's kind of unusual how this series has gone. So I don't think it's a problem for the Eagles, but we'll find out. Without Nick and with a week of walkthrough practices, how do the Eagles respond today? I think we'll see very early in the game.
Obviously, Nick Sirianni returning to the sideline, a big storyline for this Eagles team, Dave. But what is the big storyline to watch here in this matchup against the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, Fran, Jalen Hurts, here we go, down the stretch. 296 passing yards against Washington. Great development there. The last time he saw New York, a team that does take away the tight end quite well. They took away Dallas Goedert in that first game. They took away Devontae Smith. The Eagles ran for 208 yards, but Jalen had his worst game of the season. 3 interceptions, the Boston Scott fumble late in the fourth quarter. How does the offense and Jalen respond after that game? You know, there are things in the NFL. We've seen it with the New Orleans Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Saints just have Tom Brady's number for whatever reason. So today, Jalen Hurts cannot allow the Giants to have his number. He's got to come out and play a good game here, and ball security, obviously, is the number one factor.
Overall, what do you think it will take, Dave, to have success here today and move to 8-7?
Yeah, I mean, look, I probably said the same thing on Tuesday night, but I think it's really important for the Eagles to come out here early and put the Giants away. This is an undermanned Giants team. Starting a quarterback who's making his NFL starting debut. He's thrown 12 passes. You talked about Jake Fromm enough. Don't let the Giants hang around. Just don't let this become a game in the fourth quarter, because we know that everybody who steps on an NFL field is a quality player. If you have opportunities early in the game, take advantage of those opportunities and be a better football team from the jump against the New York Giants and get to 8-7, and then we'll find out about this football team next week in Washington.
Give that crowd something to cheer for, huh, Dave?
Yes, man. And by the way, it is a beautiful, beautiful day here. Great energy at Lincoln Financial Field.
All right, Dave. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the game. Go Birds.
All right, Ella, go Birds.
All right, we heard his storylines, his keys to the game. What's it going to take for you, Fran?
Well, it's funny because Dave said, I probably said the same thing on Tuesday night, and I'm going to say basically the same thing that I said on Tuesday night. I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record, but to me, this is all about winning the line of scrimmage for the Eagles on both sides of the football. Offensively, when is this Eagles offense at their best? When they're getting this guy involved, when they're getting Jordan Howard and Jalen Hurts, and you mentioned Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell, all of those running backs, getting them involved, that involves winning the line of scrimmage along the offensive line. It's something the Eagles have done consistently over the last couple of months. That's got to continue today. Then you go to the other side. Fletcher Cox, Hargrave, Josh Sweat, the rest of that group, winning the line of scrimmage against the Giants offense is going to be so big, because with Jake Fromm, Joe Judge, he's not coming into this game saying, hey, the winning formula for us guys, Jake Fromm's got to throw 45 passes. That's not the winning formula for the Giants here in this one. They need to hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley, to Devontae Booker, and get the run game going on their side. So the Eagles have to stop the run. They've got to get the run game going, win the line of scrimmage, win the game.
For me, we talk about the run game so much, and I think that's why it's now contributed to the passing game finding so much success. So today I want to see consistency in that passing game. We mentioned Jalen Hurts wasn't the leading rusher last week because he was standing so tall in the pocket and throwing some shots down the field. And you can't forget the depth in the wide receiver room. You have J.J. Arcega-Whiteside with a big catch against the Saints. Rager on Tuesday night, 3 receptions for 57 yards. Quez Watkins can come in for a big play downfield. Greg Ward scored a touchdown on Tuesday. And of course, this guy, Dallas Goedert, with over 100 receiving yards in the past 2 games. So I am excited to see the passing game keep going today against the Giants. But with that, we are going to head over to Mike Quick's one-on-one. He sat down with kicker Jake Elliott earlier in the week, presented by Pond Hockey.
Hey, we're pleased to be joined by Jake Elliott. Jake, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So you made history against the Washington football team. You went over 500 points scored in your career so far. What are your thoughts on that? And it happened so quickly. No one in the Eagles' history has gone over 500 points in just 77 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to see that stuff pop up. I'm totally unaware of all those stats going into it, so I see it as it comes. Obviously a cool honor, and it speaks volumes to our offense and all the opportunities they're giving me as well.
So you've had a lot of great moments in your career, and I think of the 61-yarder against the Giants right away, but when you look at this season, so far through 14 games, is this the most complete season you've had to this point?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, I think just in totality, you're just striking the ball really well. The operation's been as clean as it's ever been with Rick and Aaron. They're doing an unbelievable job, and the guys up front have been so clean. So it makes my job a lot easier. So I would say, yeah, probably so.
Tell me a little bit more about the operation. You got Rick Lovato, the snapper, and the holder, and Aaron Sipas. This process from snap to kick, what is that, like 0.5 seconds? Tell me a little bit about that process and where it is.
Yeah, so we have 1.2, 1.3 from the snap to get the ball off. So once Aaron lifts his hand up, I'm already moving. So I'm approaching a target that's not there yet. So I like to explain it like this, like it's a golfer that's taking a shot, but the ball isn't on the ground yet. So it all happens really quick. So it's got to be really clean, and Rick and Aaron do such a good job making me so comfortable back there.
I'm glad you mentioned golf.
I knew you'd like that.
One of the surprising things that I hear around this complex is when you ask the question, who's the best athlete on the team? Many times the answer comes back, Jake Elliott. Can you explain that?
I don't know. I mean, I was a kid that grew up playing a million different sports. So I think I developed a lot of skills throughout my childhood. And I really like to compete at everything I do, whether it's shooting a basketball around, playing ping pong, playing pool, whatever it may be. So it's something that I've always just really enjoyed, the competition aspect of it. So I pick up on things pretty quickly.
Jake, we really enjoyed having you, and good luck as you go forward to getting into the playoffs.
Thanks, Mac. I appreciate it.
The Philadelphia Eagles and Axalta Coating Systems have built a roster of all-pro teachers. Go to philadelphiaeagles.com/Axalta All-Pro Teachers to view this year's outstanding recipients. Eagles fans, score official NFL gear every week just by drinking Pepsi. Purchase Eagles Pepsi bottles or packs, scan the code to start building points, and redeem them for Eagles gear or a shot at the grand prize every single week. Visit madeforeagleswatching.com for rules and to enter. All right, we checked out that interview with Mike Quick and Jake Elliott. Of course, Eagles fans, you can get the full interview on PhiladelphiaEagles.com. But Jake Elliott, quite a comeback year. A little bit of a down year last season. He is now perfect on extra points, knock on wood. Has a 92.3 field goal percentage. He's had quite a season.
No doubt. And I think it just kind of fits with the theme that we've discussed here on the last 5 days on our game day programming, is that the Eagles have done such a great job of sticking through players and allowing them to fight through adversity. And so when you have guys like Dallas Goedert have a drop, and then we're going to come right back to you. When you have Jalen Hurts, when you have there's a lot of examples of this, and this isn't just this season. This has been over the test of time. This organization has done a great job of staying true to their young players that they have faith in, and Jake Elliott has come through. Last year was not his best season. What happens this year? He comes back, and he's having statistically his best year. And I think when you look at Jake Elliott, he has been as reliable as it gets in the NFL this year. There's a reason why he was a Pro Bowl alternate. I don't want to get into the Pro Bowl voting system because that's a discussion for a whole other day. But a Pro Bowl alternate here in 2021, Jake Elliott having one of the best seasons of his young career.
I like that he, of course, gave a lot of credit to Rick Lovato as well.
Yes.
A huge part of how he can be so successful every Sunday. But, friend, we were not going to let you go without breaking something down. So what's your Rico extra point?
Yeah, I want to go back to the matchup between the Eagles offense and the Giants defense, and something that has stood out to me over the last couple of months, one of the staples of this passing game, and how it could be a really good tool to attack this Giants defense. And what do we know about the Giants? Well, they like to play a lot of zone coverage. So here we'll just draw up cover 2. It's one example of one coverage that they like to play. They'll play a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 3, a lot of cover 4. But this play that the Eagles like to run, well, it works against almost every zone coverage. And what it's called, basically a 3-level stretch. It's a family of pass concepts that attacks all 3 levels of the field: deep, intermediate, and short. You can see here, just one example. You have a go route from the outside receiver, the running back to the flat, and then the tight end running that intermediate route. That intermediate route can come from anywhere. It might come from the opposite side of the field, but you've got all of these guys attacking each level. What does that do? It creates a well-defined throw for the quarterback because you're stretching those zone defenders. Every zone coverage has a hole. So now it's up to the team, to the quarterback, to find those holes in those zone coverages and make them pay. And I think that'll be something we see a lot from this Eagles offense. They'll have an understanding of what the tendencies are, what coverages the Giants are likely to play in every down and distance scenario, dial those plays up, then go out and execute.
Gave Eagles fans a lot of homework, a lot of things to watch out for today.
Lots to watch out
against the Giants. But before we go, Eagles fans, here's a reminder. There's a new way for you to get a recap of each game. Check out our voice app on Alexa and Google devices. For more information, visit PhiladelphiaEagles.com/voice. That'll do it for us here on the Kickoff Show. Be sure to join us on the post-game show. We'll have instant analysis. Ike Reese will be on desk with us. And that'll do it, friend.
That's it.
Here we go. Another game. 5 days later. All right, from our Eagles family to yours, happy holidays and go Birds.